So more power to you. All right, I guess I would start by calling the January 2021 Tourism Development Authority Board meeting to order. Ceci, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do, John.
All right. I had an agenda up here somewhere. It disappeared. So I'm running blind because I don't have my agenda.
We'll help you, John.
All right. Well, I guess I want to start out by thanking Councilmember McIntosh for his effort of filling one of our vacant spots, and welcome Dana Bryson to, I guess, back to the board. Dana, I think City Council did a great job in selecting you. I think your passion for Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, your hotelier role and experience is going to serve us well. And I think your position or your profession and your skill will serve this board very well. So I welcome you to the group.
Thank you.
I do know that we have another chair open, and I know Council Commissioner Gloria is working diligently to find another person to join our ragtag bunch here in hopefully next month. So we look forward to the progress that Gloria has in filling that other spot. You're on mute, Gloria.
We will be filling that position tomorrow afternoon.
Awesome. We look forward to whomever that might be joining us in February. Just a couple other things that I want to just share in my my remarks. If anybody had a chance to watch the video, once again, thank you for the city to help put the video together for the Benton Convention Center. Kudos to Grant Minix. I thought Grant did a fabulous job being the welcome host of that facility. I think it really showcased kind of some of the changes that have been put in place in the operation of that building and why it's safe and welcoming to our guests. So if you see Grant, pat him on the back. I know that Alex and Tim participated as well, but I really think Grant did a wonderful job in his remarks and welcoming people to that building. So kudos to city staff that participated in developing that video and the team at the Benton that participated in, whether they were actors in the role or whether they're hosts in the role. But I think that video really represents well, and I understand Christian's using bits and pieces of it where appropriate to help keep the Benton in the forefront of people's minds as business and conventions come back. I see Randy holding up a piece that I know was a collaborative effort between sales and marketing that hopefully you all got a copy of that went out to 500 or so meeting planners. I think Christian and Marquita will talk about that as we come. So good work is happening there. A couple of action items that we have that I'm going to need a motion, and I guess Jennifer helped me out. I think we need to address a contract revision for our copier program that they've been able to work on a way to save us some money.
That is correct.
So if you want, I don't know, Rich, how do we present those terms?
Actually,
of that?
Yeah, what we need to do, our lease is up. We renegotiated a little bit better terms with another company, with Toshiba. So what we need to do is ask for a motion to be approved to authorize the chair to sign an agreement with Toshiba for a new copy machine. It is a 36-month lease, 3-year lease. The contract is written to not exceed $29,000. The impact on this year's budget, fiscal year's budget, is $4,000, of which has already been budgeted. It's in the budget, obviously, for the copier. Correct. We just need to authorize. We need to give authorization for John, the chair, to sign a new lease contract for the copier.
So, and I guess I'm just flying. I got off of one meeting talking about isolation and quarantine, and I've got a scenario planning meeting after this. I skipped right past approval of the minutes. So I guess there are a couple of things we need motions on. I need a motion to approve the minutes from December. If I can get a motion for that. Randy and
Second.
Lou, all in favor, please raise their hand. Any opposed? All right, so moved. Sorry about that, Rich.
Not a problem.
Jesse, I'm a mess. You got to help me out.
It's okay.
So now we get to the copier lease. I need a motion to approve the chair to enter a 3-year copier lease on behalf of the organization. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. All right. I guess keeping going on. I'm just going to keep rolling, so bear with me. I think I just have 2 other items that I want to talk about. And one we need to find out, and we're going to need some help from, I guess, Rennie a little bit. And Rich and Christian, we're working on a group that's the Southeastern Travel Writers Association that is looking to come to Forsyth County, Winston-Salem next June of 22. And they are looking for, we need to authorize, I guess, our budget in 2022 to create some funding to be able to host these travel writers. I don't know that I need to tell this group the value of travel writers to our industry, but we need to, in order to enter into an agreement and get them to come to Winston, we need to give Rich's team some funding to host them and allow them to experience Winston-Salem. So that's an intro, but Rich or Christian, you want to share a little more if you need to?
Yeah, let me pick up on it, John. As I think the board knows, one of our strategies has been to try to get convention and travel associations where you have meeting planners or sports planners or travel writers into town to highlight and showcase our community to people that have the opportunity to bring many others to town. It's like hosting a familiarization tour where we're bringing people in. We've done it with conventioneers, tour operators. We've done it with sports groups. We have a wonderful opportunity to do the same with the Society of American Travel Writers, the Southeast region. So we would expect somewhere around 50 to 60 travel writers coming to town where we would host them in Winston-Salem and show off all of our great attributes and venues, and obviously encourage them to go back and write good, positive stories about Winston and bring more people here. We're at a point where we need a letter of intent with them. We need to execute a letter of intent. I would submit to you, prior to COVID, we wouldn't be discussing this. We would probably just have done the letter of intent, budgeted appropriately for it in the next year's budget, and had the board approve that budget item. But because of the sensitivity, obviously, and the challenges we've had with finance, with budget and revenues, I just wanted to make the board aware of the fact that we believe this is a piece of business that's very important to the community, to highlight the community, particularly the timing as we come out of the pandemic with travel writers. But there's a cost to hosting them. We believe on the expense side, we can't imagine it costing any more than $20,000, $25,000 perhaps at the most. And those dollars would be used to cover the cost of functions out of our attractions, doing transportation to get the travel writers around, hosting them at meal functions and things like that. But we also have a revenue stream coming in. So for basically every travel writer that registers, we get $75. So there is some income coming in against our expenses. And we also have sponsorship opportunities that we're going to put out there to the state and to others. So I don't see it being burdensome to our budget. I think the return far outweighs any cost that we will incur, and we will incur some costs. The details of the cost, we would probably spend time with the finance committee and the board as we create next year's budget. But right now, I just want to make sure we have a comfort level, and John and I talked about this yesterday, that we have a comfort level with the board, that this is something that's worth pursuing, and that the board supports it and will support the, our efforts in terms of budgeting for it in the fiscal year 21-22.
Yeah, so this
Christian,
is
you can-
something, yeah, this is something, I don't see Paul on the phone, but this is something where I guess, Rennie, we need understanding. We're committing next year's budget dollars. I think it's a great investment. I think having this group of people come to our community is a wonderful thing. And how can we showcase all the things that we have? But it's a commitment for FY22's budget. So I'm not sure how we need to do that.
It's a letter of intent though, John. It's not a contractual commitment. And in fact, the letter of intent has termination provisions. But I think as you move forward into 2022, I think you'll be able to finalize the expenses a little bit better. And that's one of the things that Rich and Christian and I have had several conversations about. And because they're not only they're in-kind type expenses, there are actual hard expenses. There are expenses, and I'm glad Dana's on the phone, that Dana would essentially have to agree to in terms of food cost, et cetera, and so there are a lot of things that will need to be ironed out. And this letter of intent is nothing more than that, just a letter of intent. And I think as you move into the 2022 fiscal year and get closer to the event, I think you'll be able to firm up the expenses.
Okay, so it sounds like, and I don't know, does the board sign the letter of intent, or is this just an FYI to the board with support to
the board at this point? I mean, I believe the letter of intent was drafted, as I recall, Rich, and help me. I believe it was drafted for you and or Rich to sign it. I forgot which was it, Rich?
It was for me to sign, Rennie. And as to some extent, we think this is a good strategy to go after this. In the past, we might have just briefed the board on it, that we were going to pursue it and deal with the budget in the budget year. But again, I just wanted the board to know up front, because of the financial challenges that have been out there, that we are preparing, and we believe it's a good strategy to do so, preparing to budget to host this group in next fiscal year's budget. I think the timing is excellent to help bring us out of, if you will, get into a kind of a more post-COVID time frame. Having writers here, I think the timing is right. It's a good investment to make. I just wanted the board to feel comfortable, or find out if the board wasn't comfortable with that before we send the letter of intent.
If I could expand on that for just a second.
A minute, Christian, it's clearly a proper expense under the statute that the TDA was created. There's no question about that. And my only concern is making sure that the board fully appreciates and understands the expense commitment. And I don't think we're at the point where you can make any hard determination there. I think that was one of the things that you're going to look at. And then we also talked about, and this is another idea that we talked about, is if it's 29, we think it's 25,000 expenses, do we want to approve a contingency amount? For example, if some of these in-kind deliveries that we're required to put exceed what we had anticipated. So no, we've got to provide certain things, the cost of which we will not know maybe until after the service is performed. So there's a lot. So that's it. That's the way it's drafted, and making sure that, again, I mentioned this to Dana, and I don't know if Dana's can hear me or not, but there are certain expenses that it's anticipated that her facility will incur at a certain amount. And so all of that needs to be worked out in final form before I think this board can intelligently and knowingly commit dollars.
Yeah, if I could expand on that, just a little bit of background information, just in general, because we obviously work closely with the Brookstown on the opportunity to host this group. So unlike other industry events that we've hosted here in Winston-Salem, these travel writers actually pay a conference registration fee. The minimum conference registration fee is $450, but there are other tiers that go beyond $450 depending on what level they are. So a minimum of $75 out of that is coming back to Visit Winston-Salem. The other portion of that would go, because the registration fee also covers their housing, directly to the hotel, would go to the Brookstown to pay for their lodging for the 3 nights. So that has already been worked out prior to the engagement of the letter of intent. The $25,000 that was referenced in the letter of intent was really just to put a cap on what we thought would be the absolute maximum cost if everyone arrived and we had kind of your top tier experiences, and we were paying for everything without sponsorship. There were no in-kind from any of the attractions. Transportation costs were at rack rates. So that's kind of how we came up to that $25,000. But our anticipation would be that we would spend significantly less than that, even before we get to sponsorships, because we at Visit Winston-Salem have the control of determining which offsite excursions we're participating in with these travel writers. And that certainly plays a factor into what the ultimate budget will be. The other factor we have is 50 to 60 people that will be coming. That number could be less too. Keep in mind that 50 to 60 is a pre-COVID number based on their last convention. Certainly we'd love to see 50 or 60, but again, when we factored in the 25,000, we factored in paying for everything for 60 people. So that's just a little bit of background information on some of the costs. So realistically, after the attendees pay for after the lodging portion of their conference registration is applied to the hotel for the hotel services, and those of you familiar with the Brookstown know that breakfast is included there as well as a cookie and milk reception in the evening, and just a cocktail reception in the evening as well. So there's a lot going into just the lodging that's covering some of the meal functions. Visit Winston-Salem is responsible for the transportation to get folks to the excursions, to see the other aspects of the destination, and for the additional meal functions during the 3-day conference. So again, the dollars with regards to what Brookstown is committed to has already been worked out. And then we're still seeing revenue coming in to Visit Winston-Salem beyond the lodging expenses. The variable here really is how many people come, and then how do we create the itinerary based off the size of individuals that are coming in. So those are kind of the variables today that makes it a little more challenging to say specifically that this is the dollar amount that we need. That's why we went with the 25,000, knowing that that was a high number. But realistically, this expense could be under $10,000 and Rich could sign off on it. We just felt like it'd be important to bring it to the board in case it exceeded 25,000, because in reality, each vendor will be less than $10,000 for this event over the course of the 3-day conference. You're going to have a transportation vendor and 4 meal function vendors, and that's pretty much it.
Rich, anything else to share?
We kind of got in a little bit of the weeds here, guys. Yeah. I really wanted to just make sure strategically this is in alignment what we need to be doing organizationally in terms of bringing back visitors. And if so, we'll work out the details, bring it to the board and finance committee. Just want to hear if there's anyone has any reason that we wouldn't pursue and issue a letter of intent to the Society of American Travel Writers.
Yeah, and I guess I would just wrap up, since it doesn't seem like we need to do anything official from a board. One, great piece of business, Christian, I don't know how you solicited and your team did that, but it's a wonderful piece of business. I would say, as Dana's on our board, this expense is really got nothing to do with, in essence, the Brookstown Inn. It's a group that happens to be staying at the Brookstown Inn, so I don't see any conflict. But it's positive that we're talking about 2022. We're talking about future business. So appreciate your efforts, and I appreciate you bringing it to us so that you can share this exciting news of this group and to keep the board just in the loop. So I appreciate that, Rich.
Thank you, John.
I guess the only other thing I have, and I see Ben is on the phone. There was some conversation in our last meeting about the work at the Grand Pavilion and the Benton I don't know if Ben, you have anything to share of an update with us, but I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. So I presented an information item to the City Council Finance Committee earlier this month, just to give them a briefing on both the status of the lease of the Grand Pavilion Conference Center space, and as well as the refresh project. Just kind of laid out what our next steps are going to be with both of those issues. So city staff and our legal counsel continue to work with the embassy owners and their legal counsel on working through what kind of documents we need to prepare to develop a payment plan for them, and to move in the direction of turning the operation and management of the space back over to the city. In fact, the owner of the Embassy Suites is in town this week, and staff is meeting with him and his staff tomorrow to kind of work through the issues about systems that are shared between the hotel and the city-owned space. So we're trying to move towards getting some action items ready to go to council, hopefully in February. Regarding the refresh project, trying to finalize the specifications for that with our the interior designer that we have under contract, as well as the city's property and facilities management staff. Hope is that we can advertise for bids at the end of the month, receive bids towards the end of February, hopefully take an item to council in March. And after approval there and getting the contract documents executed, hopefully start, perhaps, in late April, early May. That's optimistically what we're hoping for. But we just got to take these steps to get there.
Well, that's great news, Ben. Once again, I thank you for your carrying the torch for us on that effort. It's an incredibly important part of what we try to accomplish with driving revenue and tourism and conventions. So your work is much needed and much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's my meandering through the chair's report. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ben, if I could just ask a quick question. If in fact it starts getting pushed back early May before we start renovating, we may want to consider waiting a little bit, because we have home education coming in the end of May, which is our largest convention using the entire complex. Now, we're a few months away. We still have to verify that home education is coming in at that size. Will require all that space. But that's just maybe some conversations we may want to consider having at some point. I'd love to get started next week, but understand things move at the pace they move.
Right. Yes, that's a good point, Rich, and I've conveyed that to the project team, that we do have a large event that is on the books right now for the end of May. So we'll try to keep working our project schedule to see what might be feasible.
And kudos. I mean, I see great success because you guys masterfully managed the Benton renovation, and I see this as the same collaborative success with all the parties. So I see good things to happen to that.
Yeah. Well, this is a group that we had. It was a little challenging working with her during the renovation, but we got there thanks to the sales team and the work at the Benton team. But we can avoid upsetting her. It would make us all much happier. Anyway, let's move on. Some numbers before we get into the fun stuff, the marketing stuff. Maybe just December sales, Smith Travel Report. We just got it in. I don't know why we don't need to go into a lot of details, but it is interesting when you look at details of the Smith Travel Report for December. The economy level hotels, actually occupancy was higher than last year. Believe it or not. We are in this situation with occupancy and rates and everything down because our large convention and full service hotels, your upscale hotels, are just obviously not doing well. lack of corporate business, lack of convention meeting business. But in December, the economy guys did okay. So let me talk a little bit more about how that impacts ultimately the revenue. Next slide, please, Ceci. So right now we have Smith Travel, we have occupancy tax collections through November. You can see where we are. We're about 52% behind where we were a year ago. If you remember, we reforecast all of our tax revenues in August, and I presented that to the board with new projections. Right now, we had projected through November, we'd be at about $870,000. So we're about 50,000 plus ahead of what we forecast we would be in terms of revenue. So that's positive. So we at least I'm comfortable with the numbers that we have forecasted and have given to the board for approval in August. The next slide is really a better slide. It also shows you our expenses against that. This goes through December. The December number of $125,000 is a forecast. It's a projection we have based on the Smith Travel occupancy and revenue numbers. We believe that number is sound. We'll come in about 125 in revenue for December. The expense number is that sound because we know what it is. It's 188,000. It is a little higher than you would expect in December, but that is largely because we had 3 pay periods in December. The way the holiday fell on a Friday, January 1st, we really should have had 3 pay periods in January. We ended up getting them in December. So our pay period, extra pay period, is really why that expense in December is as high as it is. You'll see January back down. But overall, we're sitting right now, granted the projection, it is a projection for the December tax collections. We're sitting with $432,000 in fund balance still. We've put money back into fund balance based on the first 6 months. So we're going into January and February, which we know are our toughest months, with money in the bank, with more money in the bank than we started the year. So again, I feel good with the reforecast we gave to the board in August. Right now, we are controlling our expenses. And again, I know I've said this every meeting, but the grants that we got from the state and the county have enabled us not to spend occupancy tax money and use those money to put together some very good marketing and sales strategies and programming. One was the direct mail piece that all of you received that went to 500 meeting planners. That was no occupancy tax money in that. That was all paid through a grant from the state. So those dollars have really helped us keep our expenses down. We're pacing at what we forecasted for the board. I think we're going to end up okay at the end of this fiscal year. I'll answer any questions. With that said, I will say it is a lot easier having a budget conversation with the board today than it was back in March, April, May. But with that said, I'm going to let Christian talk about the PACE report, just so you can kind of see where we are financially now. What are we looking like out the next year or so in terms of what business is on the books? Christian?
Sure. Thanks, Rich. So this PACE report obviously looks very similar to one that we looked at a recent meeting a couple months ago. But I wanted to share this with you. This is where we sat as of January 1st for each of the respective years of 2019, 2020, and 2021, looking further out into the future. So I say as of January 1st, a couple things to highlight. First, you'll notice in 2019, those numbers are large, partially because we had 4 summer conventions for Jehovah's Witness in that 50,714 count. In 2020, we had 2 Jehovah summer conventions at the Joel in that 45,000 room night count. And then obviously for 21, we don't have any. They're going virtual this year. And we have had conversations with them. They are planning on bringing 4 conventions back in 2022. And we'll start revisiting that this spring. So certainly looking forward to getting some larger conventions back at the Joel next summer. But the other thing you'll see in our 2020 numbers, that 45,000, that was as of January 1st, 2020. Obviously, after COVID hit, a lot of those room nights didn't materialize. We had a lot of cancellations that made that 45,000 number and fall out. And then the other thing I would just point out with our 2021 numbers as of January 1st, 2021, for this calendar year, we're at about 28,500 room nights. Those are predominantly from May on through the second half of the year. Our sales team, and we talk about this on a regular basis, but our sales team does a great job staying in contact with our clients. We touch base with them on a regular basis. We certainly anticipate with the vaccine distribution playing a role in seeing more conventions come the second half of the year. Obviously, the first quarter is more of a quiet time, especially with the mass gathering restrictions, but certainly as of May moving forward, we've got some good room nights on the books in terms of larger conventions and larger groups coming in. And planners are still planning on moving forward with their conventions in the summer and later this fall. Again, in 2021, we see more of a hybrid model. I know we've talked about that in the past as well, where a convention maybe we anticipated having 500 room nights may be 300 room nights and have some participants be engaged remotely and using a hybrid format. So we certainly anticipate that being the case in 2021. But as we rebook events for 2023 or 2024, those groups are really not as engaged in concerns about meeting sets for social distancing sets in the meeting space as say groups obviously that we're dealing with in 2021 or 2022 in the near term. So that's not really a factor as we book further out, which is also positive as we try to get more business on the books in the future. Most of the groups that canceled in 2020 have rebooked into 2021 or 2022, and that is certainly changing some of the pace numbers as well as we move forward. So we'll continue to monitor this and share this with the board on a quarterly basis as we have done.
Questions? Okay, moving right along. Just want to give you, we're going to do talk a couple of minutes just about from a macro perspective, some of the things that we're seeing in terms of trends. And then Marquita is going to talk to you with really more micro, drilling down a little bit what else we're seeing from the leisure traveler in terms of how with information we use to prepare for our spring leisure marketing campaign. But basically right now, hotels are expecting 21 to still be a tough year, and largely due to everyone stopped booking and stopped booking travel as soon as COVID hit about a year ago. Consumption or demand fell about 50% in 2020. And that's pretty consistent with how we budgeted, about 50% of what we had the year before. So that hasn't changed. We're expecting to see a pickup in revenue, the hotels are, but anywhere from 20 to 30%, still lower than 2019. And we keep hearing 2023, 2024 before the hotel industry returns to where it was pre-pandemic. Tourism, though, is something that we are seeing and feel that with now the vaccine being becoming more readily available, hopefully it continues to do so, that you're going to see the leisure market opening up a little bit. And we all know millions of us, including all of us, have been locked up in our homes and are ready to travel. The trends are showing younger people are more willing to travel. And obviously we know that's why we've had some spikes. They're so willing to travel. And they're also spending more money and are willing to spend some more money. So you'll see as we develop future leisure marketing, we're going to keep an eye and be sensitive to the younger traveler as well, because I think that they're more inclined to start traveling sooner than perhaps the older generation. But as vaccines become available and more Americans are vaccinated, we think demand will be along all generations. Family travel, people wanting to be with their families, family destinations, beach destinations, food trips. outside. You'll see a lot of what we do in terms of advertising. It's going to be showing people dining outside versus inside. So people want to be outdoors with their families, and those are kind of some of the highlights that we're going to pick up on as we start to create future marketing and sales campaigns. Moving to the next slide, Ceci, I'll turn it over to Marquis to talk a little bit more about how the consumer feels and where they are right now with their intent to travel. And that will roll right into some ideas we have. And I'd like Lou to join in. We shared some of this stuff with Lou from a marketing perspective. Marquita.
Thank you, Rich, and good afternoon to everyone. Just want to preface that, as many of you know and have heard us say, is that we use various forms of research and sources, including Visit North Carolina. They just have released their local meaning in-state consumer research, sentiment research. There was a 3-part wave. Very interesting data to consider as we move forward. We use national research sources such as Smith Travel from a hotel occupancy standpoint. We will be working with Visit North Carolina and several other convention destinations with MMGY, a very renowned, well-respected convention and meeting research firm, or they specialize in meetings and conventions. So we'll be looking forward to getting that data from meeting planners too as we go forward. Today, what we're going to do is be talking about the weekly destinations analyst. That's what you see as the source here. They've been doing a weekly consumer sentiment research since March. So this is the 45th week, which is just incredible that we have 45 weeks of data. Again, this is a nationwide survey that we've really relied on. And while we've seen some fluctuations, obviously, over the past 45 weeks, we are starting to see some consistencies that we're relying on. And again, the reason that we look to all of these sources for research is because we know that in addition to our Google Analytics and our conversations with our customers, as well as with our clients and visitors who come to the destination, that we really rely on this data to tell us when to message, to whom to message, meaning psychographically and where you live geographically, and then what to say and what needs to be heard by the consumer. So again, what we're trying to do is meet the customer or the consumer or the visitor where they need to be met, and that they need to hear what they're able to hear and what they want to hear. So again, if we go to this slide, we're looking at, and why it's so important is this specifically telling us when the consumer is considering that they'll be taking their next leisure trip. Again, this is consumer leisure data that we're looking at. And so again, we want to be squarely in the consideration cycle, so that if you're starting to travel and plan your trip in March, April, and May going forward, as you can see the trajectory there, we want to be in the consideration pool. So in not only our consumer, as well as the meeting and convention marketing that we're going to talk about in just a little while, we definitely squarely want to be relevant and present when the customer or client is looking to make that decision. So the next slide, we're going to compare year over year. Just interesting, just to, again, this is not any rocket science in any way, shape, form, or another. But again, it tells us the timing and earnest when people will really be thinking that they're going to be traveling. Again, this could be a fluid. We see it like a roller coaster. I don't like roller coasters, but this is definitely telling us when the consideration is definitely going to start spiking up. And again, you can see the difference year over year. Next slide, Seth, thanks. The next one talks about where geographically folks are going to be taking this next. Okay, sorry, is the survey focused on travel within the US? Yes, yes. It does, it's a 3-part, Brandy, it's a 3-part survey in that it talks about where the consumer is right now, where they think they're going to be in the immediate future, and then further. So some of the survey results do say that the consumers are considering traveling beyond from an international standpoint, but these are all US travelers. Again, it's 1,200 consumers throughout the US. And again, it's weighted according to the different regions as well. So I hope that answered your question. Again, so from a geographic standpoint, where folks are planning this travel that they're going to be doing, it's within that 250-mile radius. Therefore, that helps us to determine where we're going to zero in geographically to be investing our marketing messaging dollars. And again, I think that's really important as we look forward to our spring campaign. And we call it the spring campaign because we believe, according to the research, that we will be moving forward in that consideration with our marketing message beginning in probably late mid-March. Normally we would have been timing this in probably mid-February when we would have kicked off, but we know, based on this, on the surveys, based on the research, based on the rollout of that vaccine, that safety measure is really what is so telling to when the consumers really want to start traveling and booking their travel. So again, and Lou, you can hop in on this too. We had talked about this earlier in the week, and when we started looking at our spring campaign, we have an insertion with our state magazine for a full page ad, which again was part of our marketing grant, our matching grant with our state, which will be the first insertion in this year from a print standpoint, from consumer print. And we started reviewing what the spring campaign looked like that we launched last year. And we realized that both in terms of the communication, the sentiment was just out of sync with where we are right now. So we gathered the creative team here internally, and again, based on a lot of this feedback from research and consumers, we tried to mirror and recreate a within brand campaign. And let's go to the next slide then, Ceci, and we'll talk about that spring campaign. So again, trying to be in sync and to talk to the consumer where we need to meet the consumer. Again, we took our brand campaign, so it's still well within brand, of look forward, travel back, and then strategize to meet the traveler where they are right now and where they're going to be. They are pandemic fatigued, aren't we all? And we're starting to see that there is an uptick in the consumer sentiment, that they are ready to relax and return to some sense of normalcy. So we took that information, we looked at the audience. Again, we're saturating, going back to the national research that Rich was just sharing with us too, to be inclusive more so of the Gen X and millennials, more than we had before, where we had been really gearing toward that baby boomer couples in previous iterations. But we are also including them. We know that the core of our visitor has been with the boomer couples. And we also have affirmation too, that geographically the audience lives in Charlotte and Raleigh metro areas. So the advertising that we are able to do is definitely our state magazine, the 2 print ads that we have, again, from the matching grant in March and April. We also have the matching investment with our state for a promotion, which again is a digital-based promotion, and then a separate e-blast to their readers. And again, that will be in April and in May, and then a targeted digital media. And the reason that we are definitely honing in on the digital media is because one thing we learned so well, unfortunately, fortunately we learned it, unfortunately we had to learn, is that with a pandemic, we needed to make sure that we were flexible and that we were nimble and that we can titrate up, if you will, in our messaging when it's appropriate. So again, I think what we're proposing and what we talked about with Lou and marketing is, again, to have a campaign that will begin in spring, but will take us through where we need it to take us through the pandemic recovery. We will also be doing our e-newsletter, our digital e-blast that we do to our 42,000 subscribers as well, and working with the Charlotte Observer on an e-blast again. It allows us to be flexible and very targeted as well. And of course, our public relations efforts have been phenomenal, as we talked about so much in last month's TDA board. But we will be working with a series of travel bloggers and digital influencers who have a very loyal North Carolina as well as a Southeast regional following. So again, we're really working hard on that as well. So with that, that foundation, what we are proposing that our messaging be, that again is within brand of the Look Forward Travel Back strategy, is that we would like to initiate a weight lifted, spirits lifted. And that's basically the headline and the sentiment going forward. Again, there is a double meaning, definitely, in that pithy play on words, that there is a weight lifted and a spirit lifted. And again, this is also a campaign headline and a campaign theme that speaks to the consumer's heart and mind and soul at this point. And it's definitely an experience that this destination that Winston-Salem can deliver to the consumer and the visitor. Now, let's look at a couple of the creative ways that we're hoping to go forward in. Again, this has all just been really locked in since late last week. And again, we talked to Lou about it. And these are the different iterations of the creative. All of the creative, all of the imagery talks about the destination. As you can see, this is where it really comes to life, where it's weight lifted and literally and figuratively spirits lifted as well. Again, we have a real nice diverse mix of ages and destinations as well. And again, these are full page ads, digital ads, and then also will be creative that goes into our promotions and to our e-newsletter as well. Lou, did you want to add anything? Did I miss anything that we talked about that I need to include?
Sure. So I pretty much acted as a committee of one because we haven't convened the new marketing committee for the new year, and had a good conversation with Rich and Marquita about this. And a couple observations I would make. One is I felt like the data was right in line with what I've seen anecdotally, and y'all pipe in about what you've seen, but I think people are very anxious to travel. There's a lot of pent up demand, and yet everybody's being responsible and maybe not jumping into that trip yet, but they're really wanting to. And I do think that part of what the data showed is that younger folks, maybe younger than baby boomers, are going to be the first ones out of the chute, maybe because they feel a little less of the responsibility that some of us do that are, running a business day in and day out, or having to interact with people day in and day out in the safest, socially distant way we can. And so, that's exactly what I'm seeing out there. I shared a couple of anecdotes with them of people I know through associations or different groups who are like, let's just go ahead and plan it. Maybe it won't happen, but I'm ready to go. And so I really think in our conversation the other day, we said, it's important that Winston-Salem capture this moment in time. We may not be able to afford missing an upcoming window, late spring, early summer, when people are going to be back out traveling again. We want to make sure Winston-Salem is front of mind. There may be some other places that don't have to spend the money to make sure they capture this window. They're going to get some of their share, but I think it's important that we be out there with some sort of campaign at this time. I like the double entendre of weight lifted and weight lifted. We talked about some of the pros and cons, and I think that's what Marquita was talking about with flexibility. Certainly, if you get a weight lifted campaign out there and then the governor says, no, the weight needs to continue, which I think the governor's done his best to be responsible as he can in making those decisions when he could. But the flexibility is, as Rich and Marquita pointed out, well, we can turn around and substitute the look forward slogan in for the weight lifted, spirits lifted if we had to, if this ended up not feeling right. I felt like there was a double meaning on spirits lifted as well. Most of these pictures show some people lifting some spirits. Is there anything wrong in the tourism business from throwing that out there a little bit as well? So again, just as a committee of one, and I look forward to hearing what other folks think, I felt like the data was on track. It did call for us to do something like this, and that this looked like a sharp campaign to me.
Thank you, Lou.
I'd like to open it up to the board for input and or lift the spirit. Randy, you're usually drinking a spirit right now.
Nobody knows what I got in this cup, John.
Same thing here. For sure. Okay, if anybody has any questions or recommendations, tweaks, please let me know. Like I said, we're still working and tweaking, and again, just wanted to throw this out to you as soon as we could and as soon as we had it. So again, we're excited about where we're going with it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'd just like to know, just see even nods. Are we kind of going in the right direction? You guys, is the board comfortable?
Well, I put it in the chat, but in case someone is not reading, I love where you're going, both conceptually and with the short stroking and the double entendre. I think it's all brilliant. So I'm on board with where you're headed. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that's the audience that's got some money to spend. You know, we're seeing at our property, it's weekend. We started a little package of our own that includes cocktails by the fire. So I think that's the audience that's going to be out of the gate first, if they're out a little bit already. And I think that's where our dollars should be invested.
Good deal.
Okay.
Hey, this is Gloria. Yes, I think it's a great idea, and I think you've done a wonderful job. This is a bit off the subject, but do you know if the restaurants and hotels are offering packages for Valentine?
Yes, Gloria, some definitely are, and we're trying to insert that into our social media for sure. So we traditionally, for Mother's Day, for Easter, for Thanksgiving, for Valentine's Day, we definitely try to gather those and feed that back out through social media, because we do get a lot of calls here at the Visitor Center for not so much this year for visitors planning that, but even locals planning that as well. So.
And Gloria, while we have you, this is this campaign is being largely funded. It's pretty much all being funded by the grant we received from the county. So if there's a way you'd want us to show the county commissioners what we're doing, or pass it on to you as a PDF to do that, however you want to do that, we could make arrangements to show this to the commissioners as well.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry. I'm sorry. That would be great, Rich. And I would love for you to share it in a couple weeks with our reopen Forsyth ad hoc committee, because of the other municipalities are all involved in that, and they could help promote this also.
We can do that.
Yeah, but I'll arrange a time for us to share it with the county, all the county commissioners. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gloria.
Hey, Rich, or John, the Downtown Partnership is also working on a reopening committee to do potentially a significantly sizable live event. And then just the other thing, while we were talking about spirits, the new bourbon from the guys on Trade Street's going to come out, be available very soon.
We put it on social media. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. First 100 get their signed bottles for sure. Yep.
And Jeff, we're in the loop with what the partnership is doing, and actually Jason and I have been sharing emails today, and he knows we're rolling out this campaign and showing it to the board today, and we'll share it with him. Right. And also I've done the same with Mark Owen. So Mark is in the loop on this, and both Mark and Jason are in the loop on what we've done on with the convention direct mail as well.
Excellent, excellent.
And to follow up on Gloria's comment, Rich, if you and Marquita can put together kind of a thank you to the commissioners, here's where your dollars were invested, kind of whether it's an electronic submission that kind of, in a way, really says thank you, and to share with them how we took their dollars to really make a difference. I think that would be a good 1 or 2 page PowerPoint thing.
Will do, John. Yes, that's a great idea.
Yep, we have an Excel spreadsheet on that, ready to roll. So, okay, all right.
Marquita,
Again,
you
if you
move
have
right
any,
along.
yep, if you have any other questions about that, please let us know. Again, our amazing PR team, who again brought us that SATW lead. We've been members, supported that Society of American Travel Writers for years now. I won't tell you how many years I've supported them because it's a lot. But again, they've done a wonderful job. Even since our meeting December 9th, these are the placements that we've actually been able to generate. We're working with an opportunity with daytime TV and out of Atlanta specifically to kick off a nationwide syndicated promotion featuring a new year, new you giveaway. And again, it's a promotion, but again, it's running on daytime TV and again, twice in the Atlanta market. So there's a potential of up to 30 million household viewers. And again, we'll show you the clip of that when we actually get that. Then also we were able to feature, again, we're so excited. We shared this with our attractions, Association of Visitor Attractions and with Brandy at Tanglewood, that the Festival of Lights just generated an amazing amount of public relations and earned editorial for us. We were able to get them in Where Traveler, which has 42 million unique visitors. And again, it was just, it's a holiday event that really was, quite frankly, made for where we are right now and beyond. So again, it's generated a lot of exposure for us in put us in a great light, so to speak. Alrighty, and then one other that we've been able to generate is, again, marthastewart.com has actually really looked to Winston-Salem. So between Paul J. Senior Botanical Gardens, between Renolda House, between Bethabra, again, they're coming to us now and asking us to be the authorities for many different gardening. And again, that's one of our pillars that we push is our heirloom and historic gardens. So again, Renolda Gardens just got featured. And again, we love being the authority, the city that has the authorities. And again, Martha Stewart's right in our wheelhouse for who is making the vacation decisions in the household. Okay, we'll keep you posted. We have several in the hopper. And again, as you know, and hopefully, did everybody get their packet in the mail? If you didn't, you probably will get it in today's mail or tomorrow. Hope you got it. But again, part of the grant that we actually were able to get, as Rich noted, and we talked about this, but it's actually launched, is the marketing to meeting planners and the customers as identified by Christian and his team. It's an integrated marketing campaign that educates and promotes the safe meeting and conventions in Winston-Salem. It was multifaceted. So again, hitting the audience with a number of different executions. And it did start with actually the direct mail piece that had a 16-page, went from 8 pages to 16 pages. So that 16-pager increase was part of the COVID compliant, how the Benton and our Winston-Salem hotel partners, as well as Winston-Salem, is now COVID compliant and safe and sensitive to the meeting planner and the delegates meeting here. We also have ramped up our digital ad placements that are reflective of We've Got You Covered campaign, as well as on our website. If you go on the meetings and convention side, you will actually see this campaign headlined there as well. And then we are launching a week from yesterday, a targeted targeted email that will go to another set of the meeting and convention clients as designated by the sales team. Again, we're hitting the different customers in a number of different ways. And then we did too take the newly produced video by the city and actually make our own. That again is a 2-minute versus the 3-part instructional and education one produced by the city and the Benton team. We actually took some of that footage because we were there for the photo shoot, and then enhanced it with some of our more campaign footage that we had taken from our consumer campaign last year, and then created a sales video that will be embedded in not only the website, but also in this email blast. So if, and then of course you have the mask, which literally and figuratively has the, you've got your covered. So again, you should all have that as well. So any questions about the campaign on the meeting side? No? Well, let's watch the 2-minute video. Again, this is pretty much a blend of, again, the Benton Convention Center preparedness, but we also wanted to remind the viewer of this video of why Winston-Salem is a great place to consider your meeting now and going forward. And again, we've got you covered when we look forward to you meeting here again. So, Sess, if you want to run the video. Yeah,
Hey,
Dana.
This is Dana. Yeah, I love this. I think that
Winston-Salem.
it's a great piece.
Pause. Thanks. Okay, I'm sorry, Dana.
I think it's a great piece to have, and all those little catchy things, like we've got you covered with the mask over the Winston-Salem and at the intersection of convenience and charm. I just think that it's just very, very well done, a great representation. And this this skyline here, it's just beautiful. Everything's really, it's a good representation, and you may have put together something like this before, but I really like it. I think it's well done. I think the people that receive this will find it very useful.
Thank you, Dana. And again, I think this is something that we talked about too, is that we also, when we created this, the 16-pager, as well as the video you're getting ready to watch, we also did it with the idea that, thank goodness, we're not going to always have to be talking about the pandemic and hybrid meetings, and we may have to be talking about it a lot longer than we want to, but we can actually take the foundation of this 16-page printed collateral as well as the video and actually morph it into a more, if you will, normal sales presentation as well. So it's got that flexibility as well. So it's a good investment again. So thank you, Dana. All right, let's go back to the video, and again, we'll wrap it up with that.
City of arts and innovation, a city with a rich history of reinvention and a vibrant spirit that continues to thrive in this hip and historic meeting destination. Visit Winston-Salem is committed to improving our city and your visit here. It's the foundation of all we do. You'll see it in our 50 hotels and 5,000 hotel rooms, 1,200 in our award-winning walkable downtown. Experience unique outdoor venues and our stunning historic boutique hotels. You'll find it in our convenient and central North Carolina location at the crossroads of major interstates and 3 international airports, all within a 2-hour drive. You'll taste it in our more than 120 downtown restaurants, bakeries, coffee shops, and craft breweries. You'll feel it in the vibe that earned Winston-Salem a spot on Forbes' list of top 10 best downtowns. And especially now, we have you covered. Whether you're meeting in person, virtually, or a hybrid of both, your health and safety are our top priorities. Our hospitality community has tackled robust COVID-19 safety measures, each with the promise that we have you covered. Our downtown Benton Convention Center has implemented their own stringent trust and preparedness plan. along with increased and thoroughly trained staff, keeping the health and safety of you and your attendees top of mind. We invite you to learn more about how you can safely meet back in Winston-Salem, because we've got you covered.
Thank you, Dana.
Very good.
Oops, hi, Ceci.
No personal photos on your.
It was just family. That was part of the family touch that we were going after.
Marquita, can I ask you a question? That voiceover, is that the voiceover you found a year ago for our whole campaign?
So it is not, but it is someone who we wanted to sounds like her again. So, but we wanted somebody who was like her sister.
Yeah, I mean, it's got great tone to it.
Yeah, we immediately liked her too. She's actually out of California. She's out of La Jolla. Bless her heart.
Life's tough.
It was tough. So, all right. Speaking of meetings and conventions, Christian's got some great.
Yeah, that's a great transition with all the convention marketing efforts we've been working on as a team here over the last month or so. But the last month, we had just started rolling out our Fireside Chats. So this was an opportunity for us to, we talk regularly about staying in communication with our clients and engaging with them. We talked about, phone calls and check-in, but we're not necessarily able to do sales calls and go visit them in their offices. In the past, we always talked about going down to Raleigh on a monthly basis. We did this kind of experiential Fireside Chats and did a series of these last month. And this is another example of how we're staying in contact with our clients and hearing feedback on what their organizations are looking towards in the future as it relates to when they think they'll be getting back to doing in-person meetings, and what challenges they're facing, or how we can work together to overcome some obstacles to get folks meeting back here in our communities again. So this is an experiential event that we did last month. We'll continue to do these so we can interact with these clients. With this particular one, we actually did a round of Winston-Salem Bingo, again, to keep Winston-Salem at the forefront of everyone's minds. And as we were playing the bingo game, people would get bingo, but they'd want us to go through all the clues. So kind of see that in the next slide. So if you can just transition to that. But this is how we're staying engaged with customers moving forward, trying to find those customized experiences to keep folks engaged through these Zoom meetings. Obviously, we're all on a lot of Zoom meetings at this time, but our clients have really enjoyed that level of engagement. So it's certainly something we're going to look to continue to do. But I say that only to point out here, especially after a long, informative meeting, that there is that Zoom fatigue, and folks are really that pent-up demand for travel that we talked about on the leisure side. That's the case on the meeting side moving forward as well. There's certainly a desire to get back to gathering in ballrooms or meeting spaces at hotels or convention centers in the future, and we're hearing that from our customers, and certainly looking forward to those days ahead in the future.
Thank you, Christian. Any questions? Mr. Chairman, if I just a couple of final comments, and we can kind of wrap up. I know I've kept you for over an hour. As we finished half of a fiscal year, which was, I think, for most of us, one of the more challenging fiscal years we've ever faced, regardless of what industry you're in, because the personal and the health devastation that the pandemic has left this nation and world in. But I leave you as we enter into 2021 with just a couple of comments. One, I think financially, as rough as it was in building the budget for this year, I think financially we're in pretty good position considering everything. I think reforecasting like we did in August, changing the numbers, doing the very hard cuts that we had to do, has put us in a position that we'll get through this year, likely put money into the fund balance versus using any of it. And it sets us up, I think, for having the resources in hand and at hand to really build a good, solid foundation and budget and marketing plan for next year, 2021, which is when hopefully things really do begin to become more normalized. So I think financially, and I thank the board for the support. And when we did the reforecast in August, you were comfortable with it, and we went in that direction. I want the board just to realize too, as you can see, we continue to do research. We're getting daily, weekly reports, national, statewide. We have a very close relationship with the state and Visit North Carolina. They're giving us some good information. We're getting good insight. Christian and our meeting staff is talking to our customers. We're hearing what customers are saying. The Fireside Chats that they're doing virtually are very useful for providing us with knowledge on what's going on in the market from a convention standpoint. And the other thing, and again, and I've said it often, in large part due to the grants we got, we're out there. We're in the market, despite the challenges that are going on. We're out there on the convention side, on sports side, and on the leisure side. And I think this campaign is going to, I think, hit the right buttons from a leisure perspective. Leisure is going to come back first, without a doubt, followed by the group and convention. But I think we're well positioned, as bad as it has been, and as devastating as it's been for our industry and those that are in it know. I think there is. We'll see a light at the end of the tunnel. We're going to keep working real hard for you in the community. But I think we're well positioned to enter this new calendar year and get to the other side of this thing. And with the support of the board, we will deliver on everything we promised. Thank you.
Does the board have anyone have anything else to share before we wrap up? I've got 2 comments I want to make, but seeing none, I guess. To build off of Rich's comments, I appreciate the little emotion and the sincerity in your comments, Rich. But I heard 2 interviews in 2020 and in the start of 2021. One was from a basketball player who plays for the Indiana Pacers, Victor Oladipo. Actually, I think he just got traded. But he talked back reflectively on 2020 and said there were tragedies and difficulties, but there were triumphs. And his challenge in this post-basketball game interview was to tell everyone, find your triumph from 2020. What was good about it? We live in a world of a lot of negative, but he challenged everybody to find their triumph from 2020. And I would challenge us all to do that. And then the other comment I heard from someone in our industry is the CEO of Delta, the airline leader. And his 3 words he used in his, I guess, his quarterly financial call was optimism, hope, and confidence. And I would say to Rich and your team, I think you guys have done a marvelous job positioning us financially, with messaging, with your effort, that we should all have a lot of hope, optimism, and confidence in the work that you guys do and what we can accomplish as the year progresses. So I leave you with those words from the wise to start 2021. And if there's no other information or comments from the board, anyone else has an opportunity to share, we'll adjourn the meeting. All right, I close the meeting. Everybody. We will see you all in February.
Good.
Great job, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Hopefully we